Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a joint meeting of the School Committee and the Winchester Board of Selectmen. It's Monday, November 24th. This is a follow-up session to an informational meeting we had on the 12th of November at the Lincoln School auditorium. The subject of this meeting is to primarily get public feedback from you on a proposal to put lights at Knowlton Stadium on Manchester Field. Jennifer will offer some more insight in a few minutes as to how this meeting will work and sort of what the joint responsibility means. But before we begin tonight, I want to make a couple of non-docket announcements. One I'm pleased to share, another I'm frankly very sad to share. I think many in this room have known or had some relationship with Sarah Swiger over the years. Sarah Swiger was remarkably a 16-year veteran of the Winchester School Committee. I was very fortunate to serve my first 3 years concurrently with Sarah. Sarah passed away this weekend after a difficult battle with some health issues that reared their head over the summer. And over these past weeks and months, she really did show a tremendous, tenacious spirit. Sarah not only was a great civil servant for all of us at the school committee table, she extended her service to many town boards and commissions, and even, frankly, upon her retirement from the school committee, she was happy to continue to be our representative to the Capital Planning Committee, and she did that with tremendous energy and enthusiasm, and we appreciate that. So I did not want this evening to slip by without recognizing Sarah's contribution. And in a few days, we're all going to celebrate Thanksgiving. We're going to give thanks with family and friends. Those of you who knew Sarah, I hope you'll take a few moments to give thanks for all that she's done for us, for her husband, Bill, and for her family, who frankly shared her with us for these so many years. I'd like to ask you to join me, if you would, in a moment of silence for Sarah. Thank you very much. I know that perhaps at our next regularly scheduled meetings, the school committee and perhaps the board will have more time to reflect on all that Sarah's done for us. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. The second announcement I want to make, I'm actually very excited to share, and it is germane in some way to what we're going to talk about tonight. As many of you know, we're in the midst of a search for a new superintendent of schools for next school year. Just this weekend, the school committee has accelerated the schedule for the fourth and last phase of the search. And what I will announce to you is that the search advisory committee voted unanimously at the end of last week to advance finalists for school committee consideration and some additional assessments and background checks. That work is ongoing even as we speak tonight. And it is our plan on Monday, December 1st at 7 p.m. at the Parkhurst School to announce publicly who the finalists are for the next superintendent of schools. I'll also share with you that the following week, beginning Monday, December 8th, each of the finalists will come to Winchester and spend the day here in town, visiting with our teachers and staff, central office administrators, some of our department heads as well. And each of these days will end with an informal parent and community member meet and greet, if you will. The exact time and location yet to be determined, likely near Winchester Center, perhaps at the Lincoln Elementary School or the McCall Middle School. All are welcome to attend. And then we will follow that the following week on Monday, December 15th, with a public interview of each of the finalists in one sitting. That will also be an open meeting. You're welcome to attend and give feedback. The reason I bring that up and why it's germane tonight is that the school committee at its meeting of November 13th, that was the night following our joint session at the Lincoln Elementary School auditorium, had its first reading of a policy which would govern lights at Knowlton Stadium. Our plan was to follow up with a second policy reading at a school committee meeting on December 9th. Given that we've accelerated the schedule for the superintendent search, that meeting has been called off, postponed if you will. So I expect that we will have our second policy reading no earlier than December 17th. Public comment is welcome at those meetings, as it always is. Having said all that, I will ask folks to kind of follow the rules that we tend to follow on the school committee side, and which I think folks generally did at the Lincoln School a couple of weeks ago. If you could limit your comments or questions to 2 to 3 minutes, it would be helpful and sort of respectful for others in the audience. Also, if you have any written remarks that you're reading from tonight, if you would like to leave those with Patty Maughan, who's our recording secretary over here, we would be happy to have those attached to the minutes for the record. It's a mouthful. Jennifer?
Thank you. I join Chris in thanking you for coming to this joint meeting. I'm going to give a little bit of how did we get here background. For many of you, it's going to be repetitive. Please bear with me. It's a slightly different group. I want to make sure we all are sharing the same basic knowledge about where we are. So this is the second of 2 joint meetings that are being held by the 2 boards. The Board of Selectmen and the school committee exercise joint control over the land that contains Manchester Field. And so each board has decisions to make as we consider the topic of lights at Knowlton Stadium. And we each have our own process and our own votes to take. But we're doing these meetings jointly because we're going to take into account a lot of the same information, and Chris and I will jointly chair this meeting. So the first informational meeting was held on November 12th. That meeting was primarily informational. At that meeting, we and members of the public who attended heard 2 presentations, one from the Field Management Committee about a lights usage policy, and the second from Gale Associates on a feasibility study for the lights installation. And that meeting was recorded on WinCam. You can watch it on WinCam's website, and all of the materials, the presentations and the lights usage policy and the Gale feasibility study are all available on the town's website on the Board of Selectmen page. So this second meeting, rather than hearing information, all of us together, we are hearing information from you. We're interested in your input. That input can include commentary on what we heard at the November 12th meeting, at any prior meetings, or anything else that you would like to tell us related to the consideration of lights at Manchester Field. So in terms of how we came to this point in time, late last spring, the Board of Selectmen was contacted by the Field Development Council, who told us they were interested in raising private funds to construct lights at Manchester Field. And as you all know, not even 2 years ago, we put the finishing touches on a successful project to overhaul that field, which was done in multiple phases. This was a combination of public funds and private donations, and the FDC was a key leader. The town was able to install the turf playing field, safe seating, a press box, scoreboard, a track, interior field and related track amenities. Before this project began, and during it as well, there was an extensive process of public meetings and consideration of various options, recommendations from various boards. Lighting was discussed during that time, but the then sitting Board of Selectmen and school committee both determined that for that time being, the project should move forward without the lights. Today, there are members of the community who see now as the right time to bring lights to the field for a number of reasons. One is so that there'll be greater availability of playing time for a variety of sports, and another is to create a community experience of night games for varsity sports, especially for football. And the FDC would like to help the town reach this goal. The steps that the boards have taken are as follows. First, over the summer, the Field Management Committee met several times and developed a proposed policy for usage of lights at Knowlton Stadium. It was discussed at several meetings, including a public meeting in July. It was approved by the Field Management Committee on August 18th and sent to both these boards for their consideration. We discussed it on the 12th. Copies of it are here for anyone who would like them. Next, at the end of the summer, the Board of Selectmen engaged Gale Associates to perform a feasibility study for installing lights. That was completed in October and was also discussed at the last meeting where we heard a presentation from Gale Associates. As the result of questions that were asked by members of both boards and by members of the public, thank you, those of you who gave us questions, Gale has been asked to perform further analysis. In particular, the board has asked for Gale to study whether and how lighting could be designed to comply with the zoning bylaws, as well as to tailor a design more closely to the particulars of Manchester Field site, taking into account things like the topography. What we had to look at before was sort of a general overlay without taking into account those further considerations. I want to emphasize that neither that original study nor any of these additional answers will be proposed as the project design. The project design will need further study, further consideration, further surveys and input as to what that project might entail. And that formal project design won't happen until after these boards have made decisions about whether to move forward or not. If the project is to move forward, there are several steps for each board to take. We'll continue to gather information about the project's viability, its impact on the neighborhood, on the community, on town sports, and this meeting is an important part of that. Each board will also independently consider and vote on this usage policy that the Field Management Committee has proposed to us. And then we will independently consider whether to authorize the Field Development Council to launch its fundraising effort with an eye toward adequate funds for a lighting project that is good for the town as a whole, taking into account each board's constituents. If both boards authorize this fundraising effort and the FDC is successful in raising these funds, then each board will have a further vote to accept the gift on behalf of the town. And then also each board will have the opportunity to weigh in on the design of the project itself, since the town would be the entity to execute the project, including pulling any permits. So this is part of the public comment process. Also, throughout these past months, we have received extensive written comment, probably from many of you. We've had people come in person to our individual meetings. We've had people submit emails, bring writings to the town manager's office. There's a binder maintained upstairs in the town manager's office that includes copies of all of the comments, and any of the members of the public can walk in during business hours to look at all of these comments. So we look forward to hearing more tonight. And before we start asking you to come and stand and tell us what it is you think we need to know, I know we all know this, but it doesn't hurt to say this out loud. As residents in this room, we're all neighbors of one another. And those who are interested in increasing sports field usage, I know, do not want the neighbors to Manchester Field to be treated without sensitivity. I also know that the Manchester Field neighborhood is supportive of sports in our community, and they want our town's youth to enjoy a robust sports program. So I hope that all of us feel comfortable in expressing our views on what these topics are, knowing that we all have a variety of interests to represent and that we respect those of one another. So with Chris's rules in mind, I'll launch the comments here. I would ask people who would like to make a comment, if you would please come to the microphone and state your name and your address, and then we look forward to hearing from you. And I will just ask at the beginning, Mrs. Spencer, would you like to start us off? Or would you like a couple people to go first?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you want to wait?
No, I have a statement, but my son's going to relay it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like to come forward on your mother's behalf?
Yes, Steve Spencer, Grant Spencer's son, here to represent her, that's the lighting issue.
And we've received her letter, her very well-written, very eloquent letter, and we all have copies of it.
Okay, great. I took some time to review the information that's currently on the website, and so I have a few comments and questions about that. In particular, there is a proposed lighting conditions at Manchester Road that was prepared by Gale Associates. And so it describes these areas of illumination. And so we have these four areas, area one being the direct illumination of the playing area. And so that's rated at 50 foot candles. So now, looking at this diagram as it's presented here, that looks like it would directly, obviously, it's illuminating the playing area, but also it appears that it partly directly illuminates my mother's property. Because the zone, as it's described here, does go onto her property as far as I can tell. And then there's some additional zones of spillage. So I guess my question is, under the town's bylaw, where are you allowed to directly illuminate someone's private property? As opposed, I know spillage is prohibited apparently under the town's bylaw, but what I want to highlight here is what appears to be directly illuminating her property. And so, that's the issue. And then And then there are these additional zones that go across our property, so it's, as far as I can tell here, the entirety of our property is impacted to some degree or another. So I don't know if anybody here can address that issue.
You want to speak to that?
Sure. So this is a feasibility study that you have. It's not the plan. And we've asked Gail to go back and look at our bylaw and see, can they come up with a design that would safely light a playing field and not have that spillage? And that might be achieved through changing light locations. It might be through changing types of lights. It might be through use of screening. So we'll hear likely by December 1st what they come back with, and then we'll further consider what additional work would be needed or what other measures would need to be taken.
Can I just add to that as well, Mr. Spencer, that you're quite right, that document you have illustrates I think it's been called the game condition, the full 50-foot candles. One of the questions that came out of that joint session, and which really subsequently we've been wondering about, is whether that 50-foot candles is necessary. Could we work with a lower light level than that? That's an open question. If that were the case, that of course may drive spillage. And then there's really a broader issue, which is what you have is really kind of generated from a lighting vendor, well-respected lighting vendor, does this around the country. There are other lighting technologies than what was presented. Are there lighting technologies that might limit that spillage, sharper cutoff, if you will? Right. So I think the message that I heard at that joint meeting was it's a preliminary study. It's based on a specific vendor, needs a little more detail. And I think Jennifer briefly mentioned this earlier. That study you have is really based on a kind of hypothetical flat plane. Doesn't take into account the various obstructions sort of in and around the field. So it does need a little more study, no question.
Okay, so I did hear this mentioned about the possible screening or vegetation or something like that. And I don't know if any sort of thoughts have been formulated about that, but I'm not
All
trying to
of,
figure out what that would look like.
we are too, and that's part of what we've asked for more information on. So I guess if you have further concerns that you would like to express, assume that there could be some sort of screening done. What other additional concerns you might like to share about the policy, the hours, the days, or the mere existence of lights at that location?
Right. Okay, well, I don't think we're really in favor of lights at this point, okay, because it doesn't seem possible that the lighting is going to somehow be controlled and not impact the property.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, and thank you for your letter.
Can I also just offer, Jennifer, as folks come forward, I think we're going to be listening carefully tonight to try to understand if you have questions, are they kind of policy-based questions, or are they questions more about the project itself? And as you gather from Jennifer's remarks, this is an iterative process. One foot falls, then another. Right now, certainly, we're keenly interested in the policy piece, but aware of sort of where this is heading. So we may have fewer answers for you tonight if they're detailed project questions than if it's more of a question of a policy nature. But we welcome them both. Thank you, Chairman.
Other comments? Sir.
Excuse me.
Burkett, Francis Circuit. I'm concerned about the visual light of these poles and luminaires, not even in the daytime when the lights are off. If someone wanted to put billboards up in town, I suspect that that would not be met with much approval. But here we're talking about luminaire arrays that are the size of billboards on top of 7-story poles. And I think in that part of town it's going to be visible from too great a distance and be too unsightly. Beyond that, you mentioned that the community is in favor of a robust sports program. I think we have a very robust sports program as it is. My boys are in college now, but they were in middle school and high school. They were overscheduled. They weren't on the football team, but one of them was in the band. One of them worked for WinCam, so shot the football games. And there seem to be plenty of opportunities to play games. And the third point that I'd raise is a concern about the usage policy, that I'm concerned that the limits that we're talking about at this time won't persist. Right now, we're saying no Sundays, get a year or two out, and a couple of Saturday night games are rained out, and concern will be pressure to relax that policy and allow Sunday games. There's already a loophole that lets some games go well past 9:30. So for those reasons, I would oppose this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are thoughtful comments, and I know the board members will take those types of concerns into consideration. Further. Sir.
Nobody else is wrong, I might as well say something. My wife told me this might be irrelevant, but I'm going to say it anyway. I live on, and my name's John Shawcross, I live on Mystic Valley Parkway, right across the road from Ginfield, so we have the lights that are on Ginfield. And I don't have a problem with the lights. The lights are kind of nice in a way, particularly in the summertime when the trees are in leaf. But recently, it seems that the community, or the runners, the organizer of these games, have decided that one should have music while playing sports. And I'd have to say, it's very annoying in the afternoon and evening to have music playing. So I hope whenever this is finally approved, if it's approved, we have something in there that says no music.
Would either Jimmy or Chris like to address that as far as the policy goes? Jimmy?
Yes, in our light policy, and I believe it's your policy in general, music is not allowed. The only thing that is allowed during games is the microphone system. It's not allowed to be used during practice at all.
But it is taking place on Ginfield.
Ginfield, I don't know about. I'm talking specifically Manchester.
Thank you. Comments from other attendees? Mike?
Thank you. Mike Bongiorno, 72 Bacon Street, and the president of Winchester Pop Warner Football. I have a few comments. One is, I think the lack of lights is an incredible competitive disadvantage for the town of Winchester sports programs. It's been a problem for us for years. We've had Winchester Pop Warner for 5 years, and we've suffered without having lights. And the reason for that is we can only practice at night. We're a youth program. We have volunteer coaches. It's not a high school program that has paid coaches, so our coaches can only coach at night. So we practice 6 to 8 p.m. at Ginn Field, which is terrific. But we can't practice there when it rains, and so our practices get rained out quite a bit. Our games, we're very lucky through the cooperation of our athletic director and the rec department. We play our games on Sunday mornings at Manchester Field, which is where we have to play for Pop Warner because there can't be rainouts because of the schedule. Every town plays their Pop Warner games at very specific dates and times, which is Sunday morning on a regimented schedule. We often play in the rain, but we can't practice in the rain. So it's very difficult to play a football game in the rain when you've never practiced in the rain. We've had a very successful program. We had a team that was undefeated last year in Eastern Massachusetts and went to the New England Championships. We had a team this year that went all the way to the New England, to the Eastern Mass Finals. We've had a total of 15 playoff games in 5 years. We've never played a home playoff game, not one. We've had teams that have never lost at home, but have lost on the road because in the playoffs, there are no fields. Why? Because the games are in November, there's very little daylight, there's no time to play. Like I said, Chris and Mark have been terrific about trying to find field space for us, and that's been wonderful, but it's a huge competitive disadvantage. And I'll say one more thing, and then I'll sit down and let others talk. I've also been, for the past few high school games, I've been announcing the games from up in the booth. And 2 Sundays ago, or 3 Saturdays ago, I was announcing the Winchester game. And the game had started at 2 o'clock because the SATs were that day. And it was a high-scoring game, and we have a passing offense. And the game was completed in the dark because there wasn't time to complete the game during daylight hours. There was one street lamp in the back corner by the scoreboard, and that was the only thing lighting the field because the sun had gone down. And frankly, it was a little bit embarrassing. I understand there need to be restrictions on the use of lights. I understand, Ginn Field's lit up very late at night. The baseball field's lit up very late at night. I'll only add that I think 8:30 is early. I know we're talking about the policy tonight, that's a separate thing, but I will note that, okay, great. So when I was at Lincoln a couple weeks ago, and the policy was presented, the note was made that 8:30 is a good time to stop because kids got to get home and study. Winchester Youth Basketball, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, where I'm on the board, we have every every school gym in town rented every weeknight from 6 to 9 p.m., and that's 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. You have 6th graders practicing at VO and Lincoln and Ambrose and other places until 9 o'clock at night. So 8:30 for high school kids to finish practice, I don't think is necessary from an educational point of view. If that's what it takes to get these lights, I think that's a pretty tight restriction, given that Ginn is lit up until much later and other places are lit up until much later. I live around the corner from Ginn Field on Bacon Street, by the way. So I just want to point that out. I think that's an important point to make. And I think we are putting our kids at a huge competitive disadvantage not to add lights to these fields. We have a great opportunity here. These are privately raised funds. Let's take it. Let's put whatever restrictions we need to in place to make sure that it's reasonable for the neighbors, but reasonable within limits, okay? Let's not hamstring ourselves when we get these lights. Let's get these lights, and let's use these lights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Yes.
So, Jennifer, thank you. I wanted to share with folks tonight, so Mr. Bongiorno, I think, is the second resident to make reference to the time of the lights and maybe potential for change. And I want to be clear with everyone about the mechanisms that this draft policy puts forward for change. This is item number 12 in the use policy. The Field Management Committee recommends not to make changes to this policy for a period of 18 months following the first athletic field event. After the first 12 months of operation, both the school committee and Board of Selectmen agree to hold at least one public meeting to get input from the organizations using the lighted fields, abutters, and neighbors, and interested citizens on the use of lights. I will add that any change in the cutoff time for lights would be a change in policy. It would require deliberation on the part of both boards and a vote on the part of both boards. So there's a mechanism here that kind of articulates, it's a recommendation from the Field Management Committee. That 18 months basically comes from a recognition that after a year's time, we would have some collective knowledge and understanding to be able to come back and say, is 8:30 the right time? Do we need to make a change? Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Other members of the public, thank you.
I'm Steve McDonald from Hemingway Street. Appreciate you having me here tonight. I just don't get it. I don't know why we're dragging our feet here. I played football here in 1980, 81, and 82. In 1981, we got on a bus and went over to Wakefield. And we played a football game on a Friday night under the lights. There had to be 6,000 people there. And I tell you, it was so exciting as a player. And the residents were there from Winchester and Wakefield. That's big money, that's revenue. We're talking revenue here, correct? And that was 1981, 33 years ago. And here we are, we're in a meeting. I don't know what meeting this is, third, fourth, whatever, we keep talking about it. Got a beautiful field over there, okay? Things have changed, times have changed, okay? The tradition of Winchester Woburn, the football game, that's out the window now, because now, what, it's the third game coming up this week? Okay, could you imagine a Wednesday night game before Thanksgiving over there under the lights? How many people do you think would show up? You'd probably have 5,000, 6,000 people. That's revenue. I don't know what the delay is here. Let's get this going. Let's get it done. I don't understand why we're dragging our feet, meeting and meeting. I came back to this town after being away for 20 years. I rebuilt my home, 2001, all right? I came back for the education, for the school system, for the sports. I have 2 daughters. I hope they can play track or have lacrosse over there, maybe at a night game. You know, when I played there, I played with Paul Manganaro. We played on a dirt field with grass and boulders. The kids are lucky over there to have that opportunity to play on that field. Okay, I took pictures over there last week and I showed them to Paul. Trash everywhere. I was disgusted. And I told him to forward it to the athletic director. Trash everywhere. I couldn't believe it. I said, how lucky these kids are. If I had that opportunity, I'd be picking up the trash and appreciate it. But now to have lights over there and to have the revenue, and I don't know who's turning off the lights already.
Do we know what's happening with the lights?
It's unbelievable.
Someone's leaning on them?
It's the superintendent.
I have a feeling the superintendent's days are numbered.
But I'm just trying to make a point here. It's revenue, okay? I'm sure we've had to move a couple of games out of there in this football. And look at the soccer program we've had. They play soccer there. It's time to move on here, folks. I mean, come on. I played under the lights in 1981, and we're here dragging our feet. Come on, let's get with the program. Let's figure this out. Let's stop the meetings. More meetings is more delays, and here we are. It's going to be 2015 in a couple of weeks, all right? I mean, who's with me here? Come on, Rick.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Chris would like to.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to figure it out. I know we have a few people against it. I know there's situations at nights. I understand that, but we're smart people.
We hear your point. So,
Okay.
yes, thank you for your comment.
I'm here just to say, let's figure this out.
We're trying to figure it out, and thank you.
Trying is one thing.
We've heard your comments, sir.
Get the money before, Obama steals it all.
You're out of order, please. That's it, yeah, out of order.
Okay, so I'm going to let Chris Linsky speak, but I would like to, go ahead and have a seat here.
I
Yeah.
was just saying, the speaker could bind himself before he's out of order, that's all.
Thank you. And I would like to say this, in terms of large public meetings, each board has its own process. This is, the Field Management Committee had a public hearing on its lights management policy this summer. We had a meeting specifically on the Gale Associates study that was purely to talk about that study. This is sort of the first big joint community meeting to have this type of conversation. So I don't feel apologetic about it, but I feel like we are moving things forward, and that's what this is part of the process of doing. Would you like to make a comment?
Not that tall. My name is Paula Swartz. I live at 15 Manchester Road. If these lights had been installed when I bought my house 30 years ago, I would not have bought it. If the lights are put in, I will immediately apply for a reduction in taxes on the basis that the value of my property will have decreased. Consider that when you're thinking about money. It's probably not anywhere near the same as the revenue from a football game. I would like to, though, for any of you here to consider how close people live to that field. I've been telling my coworkers for several weeks that Mary lives where the band organized in my high school to perform at halftime games. I mean, I live not as close as Mary does, but quite close. The other towns that have lit fields, and I would love for Winchester to have lit fields, to have more time for sports, more light for sports to happen. I would contribute to, but not if the lights are going to be lighting my property. I live across the street from Mary, so I'm the other house most affected, I think. And I would suggest that Mary's house will likewise be severely devalued if these lights are installed. How many of you would want a lighted football field that close to your home? Not your property, the building you live in. I don't think too many of you would.
Thank you for your comment. Did you have a comment to make?
Yeah. I just wanted to double up on what this guy was saying, but as
Could you give your name, please?
Matthew Oliver, 20 Mayflower Road.
Thank you.
But as a perspective from a current football player from the high school team, every Friday game we played this year has been away because every other team in the league has lights. I mean, we played Belmont, Melrose, Woburn all away Friday nights. And I mean, just a Friday night game underneath the lights is just like a completely different feel than a Saturday afternoon game as a player. And I'm sure as a fan, it would feel different too to go there Saturday or Friday night than just to get up at like noon on a Saturday and go watch a football game. It would be like a whole town thing if it was Friday Night Lights. And I mean, we've all heard of the movie Friday Night Lights, but no one's made a movie called Saturday Afternoons. So.
That's good.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Phillips, and I live in Chester Road. I first wanted to say something that Mrs. Spencer asked me to relay for her, and that is that she has a medical condition, glaucoma, and her glaucoma makes it so that light and glare physically cause physical pain in her vision, and it also causes whiteouts and problems with her vision in her own home. And the light and the glare from the lights would be very detrimental towards her, and she just wanted me to relay that to her.
As we have it in her letter as well.
Yes,
Thank you.
Other people
Yes,
about it.
thank you.
Winchester does not have enough field space available for all of our town sports. As a parent of 2 Winchester athletes, now graduated, I understand why student athletes and their parents are concerned about this issue, and I sympathize with them. Youth sports groups have stated that they cancel many practices and games due to weather when played on non-turf fields, up to 30 to 40% of the time. They have to rent facilities in other towns to meet the demand, as do swim teams and hockey, who have no facilities at all. The problem is that one turf field, even if lit, will not solve the current demand. Perhaps the solution is more turf fields. After all, a turf field during daylight offers 10 to 12 hours of playing time versus an extra 2.5 to 3 hours on a lit field. Perhaps a solution is further study of the 4 Skillings fields. Gale Associates has stated that it is possible to install their lights there as well. The town, and not the Field Development Council, should be in charge of these decisions and as a result of a thorough process and a new master plan. Parents and athletes will be sorely disappointed when they continue to have to rent fields outside of Winchester and will have practices and games canceled because they will not have the amount of access to the turf field at night they thought they would. For example, even after the Winchester Soccer Club builds their Winchester Community Park with 3 lit fields, they still will need to use Knowlton Field because even 3 extra fields will not meet their demand. Is this really the solution? The competition for field space between lacrosse, soccer, Pop Warner, other sports and events, and high school sports will remain high. Youth lacrosse has 14 teams from 3rd through 8th grades. Youth soccer has at least that many teams and more. Pop Warner has 3 to 5 teams each year. I have tried to collect data over the last few months regarding the problem, and while I still have not received all of the information, it is very clear that Knowlton Lights furthers the agenda of the Field Development Council, but in reality, it does not make a significant dent in meeting all of the youth group's demands for fields. There are just too many youth sports teams to be accommodated at one field. I urge the town to do more due diligence in studying the data on field usage and the actual amount of usage needed. I ask that you give this process the time it requires. Wright Lock Farm continues to have hearing after hearing about lighting proposals that area residents are opposed to. Why is Knowlton Field lighting being shortchanged and fast-tracked? A donation from a private organization should not substitute for nor dictate thoughtful, common-sense decision-making by our town government. It should not be allowed to take away the well-being, safety, and health of an elderly tax-paying resident. The Board of Selectmen and school committee have the ethical and moral obligation to seek other solutions than a private group pushing their own agenda to the clear detriment of another citizen because of a cash offering. Money should not buy power, and it should not be used to trample on the rights of others. Money should never be the reason that we justify looking the other way. I challenge each Board of Selectmen and school committee board member and Field Development Council committee member to park on Manchester Road, stand on the back of the end zone, which is the same as standing on Mary Spencer's property, see what she sees, see how she has to live. I don't believe that anyone would want that for their mothers, loved ones, or for themselves. I am confident that with more time and thought, more and better solutions will present themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. And if you would like, you can hand your comments to Patty, and she'll ensure we have them accurately. Other individuals who would like to comment this evening? Paul, I'm going to have you sit while this young man comes forward, and you're next. You're next, Paul.
My name is Walter Thilly, live up on South Border Road. I'm a local student athlete here, and of course I value education before sports, but the issue with the lights being over at the field is that, well, I'm a soccer player too, and I'm one of the captains for the team, and the issue for our whole season was that we were always fighting over this field with the field hockey team, youth field hockey team, the Pop Warner team. And every day this would become a problem to where sometimes it even got into like loud arguments, which was real bad for us. And it took away from our playing time, and our program depends on playing on the turf, because on the grass, we would always have to play on the grass without any turf. So what am I trying to say here? Without us being able to play on the turf, it really impaired our ability to become better as a team and a unit, because we had 5 or 6 guys over the span of 8 weeks get hurt on the turf. This is my ACL. I sprained my ACL on that turf grass over there. So that's why I'm here right now, because I can't stand playing on that grass as a team, because it hurts almost every single guy every single year. And also, when we as a program go and play away, say on a Tuesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and we're playing away under the lights, it is a whole different scenario, a whole different feeling when you have everybody wants to come to night games, because it's just a totally different just feeling when you're there, and playing right after school, 2:30, it's totally different. Like, you have no support, nobody's in the stands for us. I'm sure the football team feels it too. I mean, if they had a game at 2:30 on a Friday, nobody would come, only because it's bright out. There's just not the same feeling as there would be with lights, and that just hurts our whole program, every single sport in the school. And also, I just think that sports, of course, education should come before sports, but I think sports is what really brings this town together. I mean, after the tragedy with Gil, I know that every single person in our school was brought together by our individual sport activities, and that's what really counts here, because that's what brought us together as a town after that terrible tragedy.
Thank you for coming to comment this evening. Paul doesn't want to follow your tough act.
That was outstanding. Well done. My name is Paul Manganaro. I reside at 11 Pilgrim Drive in Winchester, and I'm also the president of the WFDC. I respect all the remarks tonight, even though I don't agree with all of them. We're not a private organization that's trying to push our will or our desire on somebody. Since the beginning of this, it was a great opportunity to get to meet new neighbors, new residents, make new relationships, and also see how the process works. I'd like to reflect. I know Jonathan did a good job on it. on it, but the beginning of this project, really what it meant to me was we had an opportunity to bring the private sector and the public sector together for a massive project, a $3 million plus project. But we were successful on our end of it, even though we had many doubters at that time. Even some people questioned the ability to raise the money. They questioned the design, the need for the project, just like some are doing tonight. But we were successful in contributing over $1 million to the project, and that $1 million represented over 700 donors. And we're very successful, and from what I can tell now, it's been an asset to the town that's been utilized by everybody. I even see Mr. Linsky out there jogging on Tuesday mornings. Even though he's at the back of the pack, he's still trying. He's like the little engine that could. But not only do we give our home to our high school and middle school track programs, but we see generations of people out there using both facilities for general health and wellness improvement. And since the beginning, like you said, it was stated earlier, there was a discussion, and they felt like there was a need for lights at that time, but it was tabled for whatever reason. Since the completion, as I mentioned, I think we'd all be in agreement, even though we don't agree on everything, that the project Phase 1 and 2 was a success, and we're hoping to follow that same path with this light issue, which takes into account everybody's feelings, everybody's input, but then ultimately, the people up here that we elected have to make a decision. Like, we can't be governed by different feelings or hurt feelings. We have to be governed by what you feel is right for the community in general. The facility is a source of community pride and gives the students that perform on it a sense of pride in themselves and the community that built it for them. From the WFDC perspective and from getting input, first of all, I'd like to say, even though I'm built like a football player and I have a passion for football, my passion really is for kids. And I enjoy giving them the experience to compete in front of their home crowd at many different given opportunities, like we heard from some speakers tonight. So my passion isn't football, it's kids. And I remember when we finished Phase 1, everybody said, oh, they're just gonna finish the football field, which it really isn't. It's a multi-purpose field. We see everybody using it, and they never thought we'd finish the track and field side of it. So just so everybody knows, our commitment is there 100% for the whole project and for all the right reasons. Why lights now? It's the only multi-purpose synthetic in town. I do agree, we need more synthetic. That would be very helpful. This does not cure the problem, but it helps and heads us in the right direction. Why Manchester Field? It's the only location where the majority of our town's athletic events are held, and it's the best facility we have to house these events, both practices and games. It will aid our current and future field space shortage by providing additional practice and game hours. We have seen an increasement in enrollment in our schools and athletic programs. We have provided additional and new building space for this need. Why not provide needed field space? Even though it might not be 100% what we need, it's a step in the right direction. Currently, many of our teams are at a competitive disadvantage. Example, our rival Woburns football team gets to practice under lights when it gets dark presently at 4:30, but our team has to go home. Also, having lights will bring back valuable rental income. Currently, we have groups in town spending thousands of dollars on lit fields outside of Winchester. And finally, this would allow us to maximize this multi-million-dollar facility to its fullest use. But I mentioned this at the school committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. I really want us to focus on the intangibles lights give us, and some of these young speakers already talked about it. I've been coaching this community for 25 years. I've seen firsthand the pride and sense of community being able to compete in front of one's home crowd on its own field provides for our young people. Many of our teams have had to give up home games and had to travel to play games because of our restricted field space and hours. I'm also the coach of the middle school football program. We probably lost 2 or 3 opportunities. We had to give up home games to travel to other towns because getting bumped off the field and not being able to have a game at 5:30 because it was too dark. Also, many parents, the reality of today's life, many parents are juggling many different balls in the air. They have busy schedules, and they find it difficult to make an afternoon weekday game or even a Saturday afternoon game. I know for myself, on Saturdays, I'm taking my son to baseball practice while my wife's taking my daughter to soccer practice. Having lights and having a game after dinner would allow many more parents to go enjoy their whole family experience at a game. From the WFDC point, we're more than happy to take on the challenge, respectfully, but we do have a concern and would like to when you're looking over the policy guidelines with the 8:30 shutdown time, with the exemption of the MIAA sanctioned events. I feel this way because I feel an obligation to the many youth groups and the individuals that have backed this program both morally and financially since day one. They also get charged users fees presently, where the high school athletes don't. So to ask them to pay users fees, donate to the project, and then tell them you can't use the lights after 8:30 is kind of unfair. I believe it's especially unfair when we presently have Ginfield and West Side Field in town that are permitted until 10 p.m. that hold youth events on it. And it's also my understanding that the new soccer complex will be allowed to hold their youth soccer programs and events until 11 p.m. So just urge you to take a close look and reconsider that. I know Mr. Nixon said it's reviewable in 18 months. Just like getting into a pair of old underwear. Once you're in that underwear, you really don't want to change it, you know? I hope my mother isn't watching. Several weeks ago, I stated in front of the school committee that reasonable people do reasonable things. I urge the two committees to be reasonable and to consider the hundreds of families and thousands of citizens your passage of this right to lights will have, and to keep the policy of usage fair and equal to the other lit fields. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. David.
Hi, my name is David Purdy. I live on Manchester Road. And listening to many of the speakers, anytime one gets up here to question or challenge anything, I kind of feel like I'm trying to talk against apple pie. I like apple pie. I like sports. My kids went through the sports systems. They got a lot out of it, and I'm grateful for the facilities of the town, and I'm grateful for the volunteers who give her their time. But I want to draw our attention to something a little bit different. We're here tonight because of a very generous offer to fund this program. But we're not here tonight as a result of having this item come off a master plan. There is no master plan for our fields. There is no one here who has taken the responsibility of saying, these are the things we need. This is the future of sports in our community. This is the sequence that we're going to try to fund these programs. Instead, what I think I'm hearing tonight is the cliche of shoot, then aim. Shoot because we have someone who is going to give of their money for a program. Shoot because it benefits a lot of people in town. But no one's taking the responsibility of aiming to making sure that we're doing it right in the right sequence. A master plan would do that. I hope tonight that the combined board doesn't see their responsibility as taking advantage of the generous offer and trying to get a shot at it. I hope the board here understands that their responsibility is to aim first. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Sir.
Alex Blumsack, 20 Winchester Street. I'm also the president of the Winchester Soccer Club. So I just wanted to echo a number of comments made tonight as well. Similar to football and some of the other programs, 100% of our coaches are volunteer. So to think that they're able to play on the playing field during the day and that satisfies their practice and game times, it's unfeasible. Most coaches work. So if you think about our facilities in town, today we have one beautiful facility at Knowlton that really doesn't get as much use as it could based on the fact that there's no lighting. So I'd say, based on the growing sports programs, you look at our town, a lot of the reasons why people move to our town is based on our sports, our community, our education, our schools. It's something that they want, right? So I think if you think about the benefit of lighting on a field, sure, we can certainly use multiple fields of lights, but it's a step in the right direction. No question about it. We certainly respect the concerns of the neighborhoods, but I think if you look at the kids, a lot of them are shortchanged. It's a big disadvantage from all the surrounding towns. There's no question. We go to other towns for night games. As a soccer club, we pay an exorbitant amount of money for out-of-town soccer field usage. That revenue would be better used back in our town, which is what we would prefer. So I would say we fully support the project. We hope it moves forward, and we certainly take into respect the concerns of the neighborhood, but it's certainly a step in the right direction to move forward.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Galante from 5 Fernway, although Fernway is not much of a way anymore, as we all know, the Great Luge. But I want to echo a lot of the passionate, positive comments that have been made. And as I can't help but look up to the balcony here, and I look at the youth, and really this is our legacy in town here. The guys that got up and very eloquently stated their case. I'm really proud that they came here and supported this program, and I think we really need to take a look at ourselves and realize that the most important thing we have here, we're just really custodians. This is our town, but we're bequeathing this town, if you will, to our kids. And there are a lot of eyes on this, and I know just from talking to some of the high school kids, they're really, really passionate about this, and I'm proud of the coaches that are here tonight and the support that they've lent to these programs. A lot of selfless hours, and I appreciate the time as well that you've put into this. Just a couple of comments, and I know there are some other people that want to talk. But put my eyeballs in here. As I mentioned, I echo some of the positive viewpoints regarding the approval of lights in Manchester Field. I happened to attend the meeting that was held in an attempt to better educate myself on the aspects of the current lighting technologies that are being offered. And I came away with the understanding that the advancements in this lighting have really progressed to a point where there's minimal spillage back, and the technology is only going to get better. And I am sensitive to the neighbors that are over there, but I ask you to try to put those fears away. Quite often when we do that, what we feared becomes known to us and becomes our norm. And I think it's important that, although it's somewhat fearful right now, I think that any fear that we've gotten, any potential spillage is greatly outweighed by the profound positive impact that these lights will provide for the town. I think we're a town with a culture that's founded on the belief of vision, opportunity, achievement, and improvement. I feel strongly that this will send a very positive message, not only to the young athletes that are here throughout the town, but also to all the members in the town, people that live in this vibrant community. We need to continue to enrich our community, make us more attractive for future families, not only looking to education and raise a family, but to decide that Winchester is a place that they want to bring their kids for competitive sports and to rally around. And the young athlete, I think, so profoundly put it, what really brought this town together when Mr. Gilpat passed away was the sports program, and I think it's evident throughout this community. So we ask that when you consider this, and I'm respectful and I'm sensitive to the people that got up and made those comments. I don't live over there, but I've got my own problems up in the hill, believe me. So I appreciate your time, and actually, just in the words of Benjamin Franklin, without continued growth and progress, such words of improvement and success have no meaning. I thought I would say that as well in the spirit of electricity. And then Benjamin Franklin didn't say this, but I will. Let's put these kids in the sports program and the community under the lights. They deserve it. The time is now, and let's not fail them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm offering my network of TV stations to help this sports situation. I've taped many sports events here in Winchester, over at Manchester Field. Rob Gronkowski of the Patriots talking to the kids. It was an amazing, amazing display, and there's a man here who helped bring Rob to Winchester. Boxing right here in Town Hall. My first night working in Winchester was a basketball event. The Steve Gay, wonderful, wonderful executive director of WinCam. God, do we miss him. Steve Gay asked me, Joe, will you go upstairs and tape basketball? And I said, sure, Steve. We had a community. I have a little network of stations. This is a very important issue.
Mr. Viglione, I'm going to ask you to limit your comments to whether you think that there should be lights at Manchester Field or not, please.
Whether there should be lights, or when is the time frame for this? Is there a time frame of a month, 2 weeks?
The boards are taking this issue under consideration over the upcoming month and following.
That would be great, because I have a network where we can upload information. I can help.
Do you have a point of view on whether there should be lights at Manchester Field?
I would like to see them there in a limited capacity where they don't bother the neighbors and where we can videotape, of course. So the lighting would be very helpful to the art of videotaping, but we don't want to bother the neighbors. Because the great events, you know, I also tape the band Boston, members of the band Boston, my friends over there too. And this is a great resource. And it's underutilized in other cities and towns, and I think lights would be very helpful. So my comment is in a diminished capacity, that they're strong enough to work, but not to bother the neighborhood.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Further comments?
Anne Marie Hill, and I live on Magnolia Way in Winchester. First, I want to say I definitely sympathize with the neighbors. I live near Winchester Hospital, and we've dealt with development issues in the past, and I certainly hear their point of view. I do want to say that having 3 sons who have played year-round sports, it really is an essential thing now for varsity sports at the high school to have the evening participation and the evening outlet. Everyone has touched on the competitive advantage and the revenue advantage, but as a mom, there's a social advantage. It gives our kids a healthy outlet. It gives them something healthy to do on the weekends. It gives them something social to do on the weekends. It's not just about the athletes. It also is a positive thing for the non-athletes in town. And so, yes, I'm in favor of lights.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Moorbacher. I live at 11 Cutting Street. I'm one of the direct abutters of Manchester Field. And I want to thank you guys again for all the thoughtful work you put into this and a lot of other decisions that I don't even know anything about that you've capably handled. So I feel a little bit like a NIMBY getting up here and sounding off. But I'd just like to point out the very obvious fact that the current lighting plan is in violation of the town zoning laws in 2 ways. One, it's proposing structures that are higher than 45 feet, happen to tower over the top of the school building besides. And second, the plan we've seen shows light spilling out beyond the boundaries of the property onto the road and onto someone's abutting property. That is illegal. And of course, it would be illegal in every other town around here, including all of those that have lit fields. We've looked closely at those, and none of them have houses as close to the field as Manchester does. Certainly none of them have a house sitting 15 feet from the end of the field. It's possible that this field is just too close to the residences for permanent lighting. Fortunately, there are other ways to achieve the goals of the athletic parties here that are interested in some changes. One, that it's possible to get more field space. It's possible to have lit practice time, and it's possible to have lit home games. Skillings will come on board in due time, providing more space. The town engineer, Gale Associates, and Musco Lighting all agreed that it was perfectly doable to put up lights on Skillings Field and probably light 2 fields instead of just 1. And the town and the neighbors have accepted the idea of temporary lights for home games. That could be expanded. There could be a handful of games like that. So those needs could be met. Do the zoning laws matter? Well, not really, because, of course, the board and the committee could invoke the Dover Amendment and roll right over those rules, but I just would encourage you not to do that, because those rules were created by thoughtful people who were trying to balance competing demands, and this was their best estimate of how to do that. And their goal with those rules was basic fairness. It's really not fair to bathe a house that's 15 feet from the field with light when there's an elderly person with vision issues inside. That's really what the zoning laws were created to prevent. And so I hope that everybody could get a piece of the pie if the board and the committee are thoughtful and patient and use as much ingenuity as possible to balance everybody's competing demands. Thanks.
Thank you for your thoughtful comments. Other individuals here who would like to speak this evening? Rich.
My name is Rich McNeil. I'm at 11 Manchester Road. I'm a town meeting member. I am a parent. I love sports. I love kids. Love it all. But I'm here asking you not to fast track the gift of lights and instead evaluate this proposal as part of the $45,000 master plan that was approved by town meeting just recently, just a few weeks ago. I don't understand why this is pulled forward. We've heard a lot of good arguments here for taking a thoughtful master plan approach. And we really, a lot of the facts cited as to rationale and reason for adding lights show that it's just a minimal benefit. And it's just a drop in the bucket as to addressing our field availability problem in town. So really, this should be evaluated as part of this master plan, which could help and solve our plan in town, our availability plan in town. So I'd urge you to please, please, please postpone it, slow down, and evaluate this as part of that master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Further comments from, sir?
Hi, I'm Brett Van Gelder, 17 Madison Avenue West. Been a Winchester resident for 28 years. I moved here as a single person, got married, and then raised children. I'm about to be an empty nester. And I have to say that love of Winchester goes strong with me, but also a great appreciation for all what you do and the folks here gathered tonight. I think I've seen a transformation in Winchester over the years since I moved here, with a propensity to make investments. When I first moved here, the schools were a disaster and hadn't been touched in quite a long time. We've seen tremendous progress, tremendous investment from the community, and a reinvigoration of the involvement in the town. And we're seeing an influx of new families, young families, and again, a reinvigoration of the town. This is reflected in the school, it's reflected in the sports program, and in the community. As I mentioned, I'm about to be an empty nester, but I would love to see the lights. I would love to see that community spirit that people have talked about. The fact that we raised private funds to put the field in, $3 million, a combination of 700 different families and individuals here in Winchester, means that people are speaking. It speaks volumes. They're speaking with their pocketbooks. They're speaking with a lot of passion about what we want to do to improve the town. You know, there's been comments about the studies and putting things in different fields. If we looked at putting a single field on Skilling's at the tune of $3 million, you'd have to put lights on, you'd have to put turf, and you'd have to put another stadium in order to utilize that. That's $3 million roughly. That's 10 times the investment that you would ask this community and these residents to make than what the lights are, roughly $300,000 or so. So it's really not a scalable issue. It's not a sustainable thing. The comments are, well, why don't we wait? Why don't we just take our time? It sounds a lot like the Winchester I moved into initially. Just kick the can, take this out a little bit longer, not do it. Well, what does it mean if we only do one school, right? What could that mean? Well, we've done many, many schools over the last 20 years. You have to start somewhere with the field. You have to start making a difference and chipping away, making that investment in the growth.
this is the most cost-effective and expedient way to create resource utilization. We as a community and we as New Englanders all are really, we're Yankees, we're thrifty. We like to make good investments that pay dividends, that give us a good ROI. This is really the best alternative that we can do in the short term. We've done things that were unpopular for a variety of people over the years. We've passed overrides. Some people have not liked these. It's affected some people adversely. It's raised their taxes. It has an impact on some people in the town. We live in a democracy. We live in a pragmatic society that says we need to make some improvements and changes for the greater good. Clearly, I attended the last meeting, listened to the light spillage issues, listened to the technology advancements. I know that there's a dramatic decrease in terms of the candle power that goes into the fields. And I'm absolutely sensitive to the elderly residents and the issues raised. But the fact of the matter is that we have a tremendous community here. We're not talking about something, maybe it's an override of the statutes, but we're not talking about eminent domain here. We're going to be considerate. We're going to do everything we can around the community and around the abutters. So obviously I'm in favor of the lights. I thank you for your time. I thank you for this process, and look forward to your decisions.
Thank you very much.
I'm William Hibbard. I live on Oneida Road up by Ambrose. I played for the high school soccer team, and we made it into the tournament this year. And by the time we were practicing, it would be dark by 4, so we'd have to actually move into the gym to play. And playing in the gym at the high school did not help our team at all, I would say. So we couldn't really practice for the tournament, and it didn't help to not be able to play on the surface that we play in the tournament. And also I'd just like to say that 3 extra hours on a day at the turf would make a huge difference, even though it doesn't sound like much, because let's say the turf is open 60 days in a season, you have 180 extra hours to play on the turf. So it's a greater impact than it may seem. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the lights.
Great comments.
My name is Chris Scanlon. I live at 39 Forest Street. I'm the girls' soccer coach. I just finished my 37th season.
Thank you.
I think Winchester was one of the last towns to have a turf field in the Middlesex League. We've had it for 5 years. Matter of fact, we were the first team to play on that surface for a tournament game back in 5 years ago. I think these students, these athletes, deserve to have a lit field so they can compete in an environment that just about every other town in the Middlesex League has. We used to joke that in the fall, healthcare would go down in Winchester because so many medical people or parents to come to 3:30 games. And with lights, obviously, every parent should have the opportunity to see their kids play in this environment. I know my players love to play in this environment. Matter of fact, they play better in this environment. We don't mind going away because of it, because most teams have lit fields. And when we go away, we draw big crowds and they make a lot of money in those games. So I would strongly urge us to get a lit game field, because when that field was created, it was created as a game field. So please, let's get it done.
Thank you. I think we've heard a variety of well-considered comments this evening. Could I just get a show of hands for how many people still wish to comment? Ian? Okay. Thank you. Ian, do you want to come and, I see 2 hands in the back.
Good evening. My name is Ian Phillips. I live at 10 Manchester Road. I'm a parent of 2 high school athletes, student athletes. Both of my children lettered all 4 years, and both of them were captains of their teams. However, I will tell you that not once did either of my children play a home game. Why? Because we didn't have those facilities. So I understand when people talk about that we want to have everything for our children. I wanted to have a pool. I wanted to have other things for my kids, but we did not have that. We had to make the best with what we had. I'm also a voter. I voted for every single override that benefited the students of this town. And I'm also opposed to the lights for a lot of reasons. But I'm going to speak only tonight about my opposition with respect to the financial issues. The cold, impartial financial facts that I'm presenting tonight are by no means complete. However, they are based upon information that I have received directly from Winchester Town offices, the Gale report, and engineers who have worked on similar projects involving the installation of lighting on athletic fields. My comments, and I'll try to be succinct as possible, will focus on three future cost items: design and construction costs, operation costs, and the revenue from field usage, which we've heard quite a bit about tonight. I'm sure that there are other costs that the town will incur, such as legal costs for permitting, variances, health and safety. They're not a part of my comments tonight. With regards to the design and construction costs, this analysis is far from complete, and the town is waiting, as you've already said, for more information from Gale. Gale has provided similar information to the town in the past, both for Knowlton as well as Manchester Track. And their cost estimates were reasonably good in the past. And that's important to both boards. Why? Because you need to be able to rely upon those results and have a firm grasp of what the future costs are going to be. The cold financial facts with regards to the design and construction are as follows. First, Winchester's history with field development costs indicates that the final costs are slightly higher than approximated. Knowlton and Manchester projects were 11.5% and 7.5% over the bid prices. But they were within 5% of Gale's prices, so that was very helpful. The actual overage costs for those two projects were approximately $141,000 and $55,000. Two, since the summer, the estimated costs for the Knowlton lights have increased by 33%, from approximately $300,000 to Gale's most recent value of $400,000. And as a partial response to the community's comments, those costs are going to increase further. It's not unclear, because they need to address reasonably foreseeable costs, such as lighting required seating and walkway areas, screening to prevent light spillage well in excess of what is allowed by the Winchester bylaw limits, additional electric service requirements, as well as permitting costs. The third financial fact, cold financial fact, is that the backup for Gale's estimates must be received and reviewed closely to be sure that they take into account the Knowlton-specific conditions that exist. For example, how are we going to get a 20 to 40-ton drill rig across the field without, to drill the foundations for the stanchions without crushing the field's underground drainage system? How are we going to get the concrete delivered to that location without crushing that system? Well, crushing the drainage system will destroy the field. And third, what about the cost for the crane to lift the stanchion over the entire field? That is going to be a huge crane, and that has real costs that we can reasonably estimate and we need to look at carefully. In summary, for the design and construction costs, the selectmen and the school committee must know the true, reasonably knowable costs, how much of those costs will be covered by the gift, and where the money for the additional costs and cost overruns will come from. History has demonstrated that we must not be blind to the facts that there will be design and construction cost overruns. The cold fact is that Winchester's finances cannot afford tens of thousands of dollars for these lights. With regards to operations costs, if lighting is installed, the true long-term cost must be understood, and to my knowledge, this has not been addressed at all to date. At a minimum, the questions that must be addressed to help the selectmen and school committee make their decisions include, what are the true electric costs going to be? How much more will the town need to pay is dependent upon Winchester's electric rate. It's dependent upon the rate increases over time. Who didn't notice that NSTAR was going to raise, or National Grid's going to raise rates 37%? The electric demand of the lights, and obviously the duration of use. More hours, more money. Second, what will the additional labor cost be to turn off those lights each night? Will this be a custodian working overtime and on weekends? Or is this a new hire that requires the town to pay benefits? Third, what are the requirements for the bathrooms and security at McCall to be available for these extended hours? Each of these questions represent true, reasonably knowable costs that must be understood and should be discussed with the FinCom before a gift is accepted. These operations costs are long-term commitments of money that are above and beyond what the town currently pays. Where is this money going to come from? What services are we going to sacrifice or cut for the operation of these lights? We should be able to ask and answer that question. The cold financial fact is that the addition of lights will cost money to operate and maintain them, and Winchester's strained finances cannot afford additional costs without cutting other services. This brings me to the expected revenue, which a lot of people have spoken about tonight, that they expect to get from the field and from the lights. First, let me say definitively that field rental, with or without lights, will not pay for the operation, maintenance, and replacement costs of Knowlton Field. This is indisputable based upon the financial facts that are tracked separately from town finances. Years ago, when we were talking about Knowlton Field and the turf, and we brought up this issue of what it was going to cost to replace that field, we were told, all of us, the citizens of Winchester were told, don't worry about that. We'll raise the money by renting the field. That was incorrect. We're currently halfway through the life of that field. I've been told 4 or 5 more years are left. So how much do you think is left in that, how much money is in that field fund? Should be about $200,000. We're halfway through, right? The cold financial fact is that we're nowhere near that amount. The cold financial fact is that as of September 2014, halfway through this period, there is approximately $4,000 in that account from the rental of the field over that entire time because of the expenses that have been incurred. Even if we put lights in, 5 years, there will be no field to play on. Imagine all of us who pay Comcast for cable service that we get and our television is broken. The lights will shine on no field whatsoever. After the November 12th meeting about lights, one of the selectmen said off the cuff, the solution to the problem of more fields is to just get another gift to pay for the field. Really? Is that the solution? Speaking off the cuff, how about we sell the naming rights to a sports drink company or a tobacco company to replace the field? How about we propose an override to the town to ask for that money? The cold financial fact is the field rentals will not generate the money to operate and maintain Knowlton, with or without lights. Whatever money we have or are able to raise must be put towards maintaining our existing fields, not adding additional cost burdens. So in closing, the cold financial facts are that Winchester does not have the money to address costs beyond the gift for the design and construction. Winchester knows expenditures will increase to pay for the operation and maintenance of lights at Knowlton, and Winchester knows how much does not know how much our annual cost will increase as a result of the lights. And Winchester knows that the revenues from the field, with or without lights, will not pay for the replacement of the field, and that there is $400,000 plus unfunded cost coming in the near future. Simply and coldly, the lights will add additional financial burdens to Winchester's already strained resources.
Thank you, Ian. Would you like your comments to go to Ms. Mon? Thank you. I saw 2 hands in the back. Sir, in the last row. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you. My name is Scott Purman. I just moved to town 6 weeks ago. I live on Manchester Road. I didn't come here with any kind of prepared statement. I'll say first to the athletes, if I was in their shoes, I would certainly be asking for lights, and frankly, I'd probably want them on until about 2 a.m. I was the captain of my teams in high school and in college, and I would love nothing more as a fan to be sitting in the stands at a Friday Night Lights event. I just don't want it to be 3 houses away from where I live. I have a few concerns other than what's been raised already. And it may have been covered in previous meetings. As I said, I just got here. I have 3 small children. God willing, they'll grow up and be athletes in this town for a long time. Number one, I'm concerned about the noise. I know it was mentioned, but I do expect that if the lights go in and we have a limitation to say no noise and it's only going to last till 8:30, it won't be long before it lasts till 10, just like the other fields, and it won't be long before there's music before and after games. It happens all the other towns, and it will happen here too, I expect. And I have concerns for the families that live nearby that have small kids. By that time, I won't have small kids, but there will be other families that will have small kids. And it's tough, even now on weekends during the day, if you have a baby or whatever that's sleeping and you live that close to the field, when the band starts or the crowd's cheering or whatever, anything wakes them up. So it should be taken into account, the noise. Number two, the cost of security at night games is a concern for me. I just think, again, I would love to attend a Friday Night Lights game, but having 6,000 people descend on my neighborhood until 10 at night or 8:30 at night is not really what I want to see. And I'm concerned about security. Third, I'm concerned about just trash, and not necessarily from the residents of Winchester. I have high regard. I'll say that 90% of the reason we moved here is because of the Winchester education system. I will say, to rebut a previous statement, 0% of it had to do with the sports in Winchester. I'm concerned, we get trash in our backyard now. We get beer bottles thrown into our backyard, we get other trash in our backyard. I'm concerned that if there are night games or night events 6 nights a week, that's going to get worse. And I'm concerned that it's going to be on the front lawns and up and down our street. And my final concern is parking. Parking is a concern for us now. I have a shared driveway with a neighbor. We park on the street when there are games. There's no parking on our street. And in the event that these Friday night games do get as popular as everybody hopes they'll get, where are 6,000 people going to park? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a gentleman in the rear on the right. Sure, come on up, please, and then Mike will get to you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Davis. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Winchester Sports Foundation, and the foundation has been supporting the Winchester High School athletics for more than 2 decades. And in fact, we gave very substantial contributions to the turf field and to the completion of the track. So we have a clear interest in these kinds of projects. I think it's safe to say the turf field is really the crown jewel of our athletic facilities. And I think there's no question that it's being underutilized in its current form. While the lights haven't been put to us for an official request, I think it's safe to say it's the kind of project we would support very much and be very interested in supporting. I know there's costs associated with the idea of lights, but I think the field and the track are great examples of how this community has come together to fund something like that. I mean, those are major expenditures, and we came together and pulled that through. It was part because of organizations like the Sports Foundation, the Field Development Council, and many others in the town who've supported those initiatives. So I don't want to rehash many of the arguments. I'm certainly sympathetic to issues that the neighborhood has, but I think as a community, we have a lot of scarce resources. We have to make the best use of those that we have, and I think bringing lights to the field will do just that.
Thank you. Mike? I'll get you afterwards. Thank you, Ed.
Good evening. My name is Michael O'Brien. I live at 50 Clark Street here in Winchester. I'd like to say I can, with the purpose of the Field Management Council wanting to put lights in at Knowlton Field, There's also been talk of putting lights over on Skilling's Field. I'd like to take, one gentleman mentioned cost of doing something over on Skilling's versus the cost going over at Knowlton Field. You have a turf field already installed at Knowlton Field. You have a track. You have a field development council that's graciously coming to you two boards to see about putting lights on the field. You have some young men and women up there, kids in the back of the hall, that play sports in this town. You take away the sports in this town, and you take the heart out of these kids. I feel that if you can work it out with the policy between the Board of Selectmen and the school committee, and you both go together, you negotiate, you work a compromise that's acceptable to both sides, you compromise, work out a solution that's amiable to both sides, you compromise. And hopefully here, we can come up with an issue on this issue of the lights to compromise so we can have a field that we're proud of. We're one of the few towns in this area that doesn't have lights for Friday night lights. These kids want to have a chance to play a Friday night game or Friday night. Bring these people, and granted, you're going to have people come to see the field, come to see the game, but give them that chance. Give them the chance. You have a crown jewel over there. You have an AstroTurf field. Private funds and town funds will use to develop the track, and you have Mr. Manganaro and his committee and different people here that are bringing youth to sports as a way of getting their education and their sports together, and I hope that these two boards take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Hello, my name is Alex Curtin. I live on 21 Dartmouth Street. I'm a three-sport athlete, and I was one of the captains this past fall of the Winchester girls varsity soccer team. To play in our home tournament game against Dracut, my team was dismissed early from school to play in a 2 o'clock game. So if the argument against lights is that it will distract us from our studies, I will say that not having lights can distract student athletes like myself from our studies, because we were taken out of our classes during the day for a home game. As an athlete, I must say that playing under the lights is a totally different feeling. Our team went undefeated this past season when we played under the lights. We were much more motivated, and we came back against some of our toughest opponents. Our first game against Woburn was home in the middle of the day. We lost that game. The second time we played Woburn was under the lights on Woburn's turf, and we won that game. It was one of our most exciting games. We lost that tournament game that we were dismissed from school to play on the turf field. I felt that my team was really deprived of a tournament-like environment that my friends from other towns in the Middlesex League had in their first game of the state tournament. This game against Dracut ended up being my team's final game, as we were kicked out of the tournament. I wish better for my underclassmen teammates in the future, and that is why I'm strongly in favor of the lights.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
I think I got everyone with a, sure. Good, how are you?
Jim Cabino, 2 Lakeview Road, at the corner of Bacon, under the streetlights. I want everybody to look, everybody turn around and look up here, and this is what it's all about. It's all about the kids. I too coach under Paul Manganaro. I've been doing it for 9 years on a volunteer basis. And with all due respect to the opposition here, because I do want the lights. I've been coming to the meetings. This is my first time speaking on an issue that I deem the utmost importance when it comes to the best interests of our children, our community, and the town as a whole. As a business owner nearest to the Manchester Field location at issue, and as a former sachem, I'd like to express my points of view regarding lights at Manchester Field. The lights at our long-standing, age-old mainstream sporting facility would be more than welcomed by the town of Winchester's commercial businesses. Every business owner in town that I've heard speak regarding the subject matter thinks it would be great for the nighttime businesses. More so, it would allow our town to catch up to the surrounding Middlesex League and county sports facilities that have lighting. The lights would deliver an extraordinary effect for all sporting events and would fulfill the best interests of our children, fans, athletes, and town alike. The town of Winchester's costly but unfinished sports facility needs this upgrade to make it whole with competing communities, with the communities. For the few who object to the lights, they need to put self-interest appeals to rest and consent to the lighting, which is so necessary to catch up with the times and to stimulate our students and athletes. They must also be reasonable if and when the lights are installed regarding timeframes for lighting the field. We need to remember one thing. We cannot just install the lights to be stifled by a few who want to control if and when they go on. I know everyone has heard this before, but I need to reiterate it. If you purchase a home on the highway, expect to hear and see speeding cars. If you purchase a home by a field, expect to hear and see the wonderful cheers of team spirit and joy. Lastly, expect to see the sports facility grow with the times. And in this particular instance, catch up with the times. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Jim, would you like to give your comments to Ms. Mon? Do you want to hand your comments to Patty Mon? Thank you. Mr. Saltmarsh, I'm sorry, you're sitting behind a pole.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. For the record, my name is Sherman W. Saltmarsh, Jr. I live at 154 Mount Vernon Street, Winchester. I heard some of the other comments made a couple of speakers back about the financing of this. When Paul Manganaro and I went up, I think, when Tom Howley was chairman of the Board of Selectmen 4 or 5 years ago, a lot of people said, you'll never be able to raise the money. And the town came up with a substantial cost to the town. Ever since, it's been money we've raised. And I'll stand here tonight, and I know what people are saying. We will raise the money to do this. We're not going to ask the town, the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, unless we have all the money in the bank to do this project. I don't want that to be known. As far as I'm concerned, there won't be a shovel put in the ground until we have the money, and we come to you and say we've got it. Then it's up to the town to say, go ahead and do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Whip. Okay, I think I got all of the hands. Is there any last word? Is there any member of either board who would like to make a comment before Chris and I give a brief update and wrap up?
I would suggest that people do read the policy for the light management, for the field management committee. We've put a lot of time and effort in it. We've tried to be equally balanced on both sides. If you have any questions on it, please give me a call. I'm a member of the field management committee. Chris is a member of the field management committee. Chris Linsky. It's important you understand it. I think we have a very fair and equitable proposal. Also, I'd like to let you know that this project cannot be completed until all the funds are in place, because we cannot sign a contract. So whatever the number is, the number is. And we will not be going forward until the money is in hand, so that we can advertise and sign the contract and put out the bid and do the job. Thank you.
I'll just say briefly that I appreciate all the comments that were made. As you can tell now, they've had some listening here, that it's complicated. We're trying very hard to find a solution that works for everybody, but as you've heard, the solutions for one does not necessarily meet the needs of another, and vice versa. So we're trying. I appreciate your patience. I've said this to my friends, to my neighbors, and to my colleagues here, that this is time well spent. We're getting very good inputs now, and the urgency is somewhat limited by a desire to have something we don't have. And a lot of the concerns that you've raised, we do hear. We are very interested. However, we're mindful of the fact that the cost whether it's financial or otherwise, that it impacts others has to also be considered. And that's what my personal feeling is, that we're doing the right things by listening, we're doing the right things by trying to get people's facts and understanding. And I just say one last thing. It was mentioned before, and I've said this several times at several meetings, moderation and compromise is going to be the way we find a solution here. And I appreciate those that want more, and I am very sympathetic that those that want none. But I think that moderation and compromise is going to provide us something. And appreciate the fact that people say, wait, get a master plan. But there's time that we could be doing something, and there's time that we could be doing some of the right things that have been requested. So we're mindful of that as well. So I appreciate your time and comments. Thank you.
Well said, Chris, and great comments, and I know they're the types of comments that all the members will take under advisement as they weigh the decisions that we on both boards have to make. Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about where you're going next?
I'd be happy to. So first of all, I want to also just extend my appreciation for everyone who turned out tonight and for your comments. We also appreciate the comments we've received. Many of you have come to our school committee meetings, or you've submitted comments to us through direct mail or email. I'm especially impressed by the turnout of the students tonight. You all did not come down and speak, but you were here to support your peers, and those who did speak, I thought you did a great job. You're really clear and articulate, and I appreciate that. So I have a couple of thoughts. It picks up on Chris's comment about compromise. I've heard tonight some concern that we're going too fast, and I've also heard that we're dragging our feet. So I think that means we're doing it just right. I have a hunch none of you tonight were with us as recently as September of last school year, when the school committee was in deep conversations about lights on Skillings Field. Does anybody know we had that conversation? The Winchester Soccer Club came to us in some desperation because they'd lost a facility they were accustomed to using due to daylight savings time, and the request was to put up temporary lights on Skillings Field. So we entertained that request. We heard from the community. And I must tell you, for abutters near Manchester Field and Knowlton Stadium, your friends and neighbors in Winchester who live near Skillings have shared the same concerns. So I feel compelled to share with you tonight, to anyone who said, why don't we do it on Skillings? It's a shared experience. It's a shared concern over there. But at the end of the day, the school committee opted not to permit lights on Skillings for a simple reason, that we recognized we did not have a policy that would govern lights on a playing field. And it was right for us to do that because we are fundamentally a policy-making body. What can we do as policy that can guide us both now and in the future? Because these needs are present and they're growing. So when I first heard late this summer of Mr. Manganaro's visit to the board and the Winchester Field Development Council's interest, I had a flashback to those discussions about Skillings Field. To the gentleman who, I think it was Mr. Peretti, who said, be sure you aim, don't shoot, don't do it backwards. I think that's really exactly what we're doing. We're hearing all of your comments, but it is an iterative process. As I said earlier, we've had a first policy reading. We'll have another one on December 17th. We've got to vote policy, and then we'll talk about a project. And the intricacies of what that project looks like, what kind of light it throws and where it throws, we'll talk about when we get to that point. But I certainly have appreciated the feedback very much, and I would just remind folks, if you'd like to come visit us at the school committee table up at the Parkhurst School at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays, we're happy to see you as well. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Chris. So as I mentioned, we're waiting to hear further information from Gale Associates to do some fine-tuning on that feasibility study that will hopefully help us come up with a plan or a proposal, a feasibility concept to consider that's more compliant with our bylaws. When that information is available, it'll be shared with the board and the school committee, and it'll be made available to the public as well. Keep looking at our website, both on our board agendas and on the Selectmen's page. And that could happen as soon as the board's December 1st meeting or possibly December 15th meeting. And in terms of the timing of when we'll vote, I think it's going to take some discussion by the board. We'll vote when the board feels that it has sufficient information to make that decision. We're concerned about cost. We're concerned about the questions that we've asked about the scope of the project and what can be done for the neighbors. And those are the types of questions that we'll be continuing to look at before we cast our votes. So thank you all very much for coming. Any last comments? Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you.